Caution. Watch out this video on your own risk. Spoiler ahead. As the movie begins, we're told the story number 1, which is the king and queen of the kingdom of Long Trellis. King had a lot of love for her queen. He wished that his queen would always be happy. Unfortunately, the queen can never become a mother, and she remained very sad thinking of it. King used to call upon doctors from kingdom so that they could treat the queen. But no one could ever understand and couldn't help them. Then one day the king calls upon the circus people in the castle, so that they could entertain the queen and she may have fun. But one of the women in circus people was pregnant. After seeing her, queen gets more upset. She becomes more angry and starts breaking the stuff. While she comes back to the room, the king used to love her queen. He promises her that he would go to any limit for her. On the next day a tall, slim and old person comes to the castle, who claims that he could help them in this matter. The king tells him that many people have vised before and claimed the same, but no one could ever help us. How could you claim that with such belief? He explains to him that this is possible. The only question is the limits you can go up to have this child. Listening to him they reply up to last limit. The old man says that I know how the nature works. The whole world is having a balance, and he says if you want to get a life, then you have to sacrifice one life too, so that everything remains under balance and nothing could imbalance. They both agree for it. The king was given the target to capture the sea creature. After elimination, his heart would be used to cure. The lady who would cook the heart must be pure and single. The queen would eat that and will become pregnant after that. As they wanted the child, so the king goes out to chase the sea creature. And he gets the target in one of the river, who was very big, white-colored monster. The king goes into the water to hunt that, and when that monster was asleep the king becomes succeeded. Though he succeeds in elimination, but during the fight he gets injured. He becomes so injured that he dies at the spot. But before that he had drawn the heart out of that monster. And the queen herself covers that heart in the cloth and comes back to the castle. One of their maid was single and pure, and she was ordered to cook that for the queen. But during cooking she gets wired feelings, and she also becomes pregnant. And when that heart was cooked, the queen eats that, and the same thing happens as told by the old man. Finally the queen becomes pregnant. And exactly at the same time, the queen and that maid give birth to their childs. Both of those were sons. The queen names her son Elias and the maid names her son Jonah. Then movie was shown after 16 years where those kids were grown up. No. The queen was very happy with her son. Like if she was given a new life. Those two kids were born at the same day and were different from normal children's. All of their hairs were of white color, which were representing the sea monster. And they both looked the same. They seemed as twins. They were very much closer to each other. They used to catch up together. They had a friendship. But the queen never liked their friendship. She used to explain her son that you're a prince, and you can't be friends with maid's son. But Elias never listened to her mother and used to meet up, and they had the ability to breathe within water. And to hide up they used to go to the same river where that monster was killed. The queen warns her maid that if she would not stop her son she would move her and her child out of the kingdom. But still they never cared and used to meet up. One day they crossed the limit. Jonah wears off Elias' clothes and goes to the queen. And queen never recognized whether he was his son or not, but she remained suspicious. When she finds out the reality she decides to move Elias out of the kingdom. Elias tries to stop him, but he never stops. Jonah cuts of the tree with his knife, and water starts to flow. Jonah tells Elias that as far as the water is pure you should understand that I'm alive. And when it becomes red you realize that my life is in danger. He moves from there after saying that. So many months pass away and Elias used to check that water that when it becomes red. Then he realizes that Jonah's life is endangered and something is much wrong. And he moves out of kingdom without telling her mother so as to find Jonah. After searching a lot he had found Jonah's home. Jonah had married a girl. As both of them looked the same from their face they recognize him as Jonah. Then he comes to know that Jonah went to jungle 5 days ago and didn't return. Elias also goes out to find Jonah, and the queen was much worried about her son. She finds her from the whole kingdom but nobody could find him. She calls upon that old person again, but he demands the same, that if she wants her son to return, sacrifice of life is necessary. She agrees to him. Jonah was caught in a jungle and was much injured as well. Then the flying monster attacks him and tries to kill him. After listening to Jonah's shouting, Elias finds him and kills monster with his sword. But that flying monster was his own mother and he was unaware that he killed his own mother. But this what was bargained. Life for life. Jonah's life is saved and Elias becomes the king of the kingdom. And the story ends here. Story number 2. It is related to the king and the old lady. He was very lecher person who was always surrounded by girls. He used to drink all the times and he couldn't find her queen yet. The one he could accept by heart and marry her. Nearby that place 2 old women used to live. They barely come out of their homes and were unmarried too. This was obvious that they would die there alone, but their voices were very sweet. Their voices didn't seem old. One morning when one of them was singing, the king listens to her voice. The king was inspired by the voice and he follows it. But the old woman returns to home and the king becomes more curious to see her. He thinks as if she was a beautiful girl who is shy of her. One of her was named Dora and other was Ima. Dora was much cunning and greedy. Ima was straightforward and, when Dora sees that the king was at the doorstep, her heart fills with greed that their luck may get changed now. They had spent the whole life alone otherwise. They ask king to come after 1 week from inside home. Then I will show you one of my body parts, and the king thinks as if he got his love. But he knew that they were 2 old ladies. Their skin also looked very old. But they try much so that their fingers may look young. Dora puts some herbs over her fingers but it still seemed to be the fingers of old lady. And she starts crying. But on the other had Ima who had put her finger in the mouth for many days. Her finger was looking quite good. And today the week was surpassed. And king had to visit her, but Dora sews Ima's finger instead of her own. Now king was not able to hold his emotions. And they both knew if kind king had known about this act, he would definitely hang them. She put a bet and says, I will visit the castle at midnight, but there must be darkened out there. All the candle lights should be blown off. King agrees. Now Ima tightens up her body with the glue, so that it may look young girl's body. At the midnight one of the guard from temple comes to pick her and there was darkness in the palace. And when in the morning he realizes that he spent a night with the old lady, he becomes more angry. And throws Dora out of the castle's window. But Dora survives in jungle and a magic happens to her. And a witch comes there. As we proceed further, Dora gets changed into a young lady who had long hairs. The next day king visits jungle for hunting and falls in love with Dora at first sight. He brings her to his temple and decides to make her queen. Dora never knew that how she turned into young girl. But she remembered her sister Ima. She invites her on her wedding, but Ima was never thinking that her sister has been turned into a young girl. And soon she will become a queen. The dress Dora sends to her sister was very costly. Emma wears the dress and comes to wedding where Dora tells her everything. And she wishes to become young as her sister. When Ima inquired her that how she became that, she replied in joking way that I dragged my old skin out. But Ima considers it to be truth and visits Ironsmith and promises him to reward necklace and costly dress if he removes her skin. That Ironsmith was more stupid than her. He takes her to jungle and removes all her skin. That was pretty disturbing scene, and she returned in the same situation. It was obvious that she would die and she dies. On the other hand, Ima's magic doesn't last long. She starts to grow old. When she realizes that she is turning into old, she runs away from there. She returns back to her real age. And becomes the old lady completely, and this story ended up sadly here. Story number 3. It is also of kingdom. The king was of wired nature. His queen passed away long ago. And Violet was his daughter. But still he never married. He never loved her daughter by heart. One day the king sees parasite insect on his hand, who sucks the blood. The king likes him very much. He makes him suck his blood. He keeps it in a glass box. He allows him to suck his blood every day. As the time passes, that insect grows up. On the other hand, Violet, who was grown young, always dreams of a prince. But the king was irresponsible and he never cared about that. He was much happy with that parasite who was grown up. One day the parasite becomes ill and dies. The king drags all his skin out and tells her daughter that the time has come to find husband for you. He says, I'm going to arrange a competition and one who wins that will get you. Violet becomes happy with that but becomes little upset as she wanted to find husband on her own. But still she agrees to the king decision. Announcement was made throughout the kingdom. The king displays that skin in his palace. The one who would tell that whose skin is this, he will win. Many people try but no one answer properly. Because that insect never grew that old. A wired person appears in the palace that anyone could become frightened after seeing him. He also wants to participate in the competition and the king allows him finally. That animal-looking person smells the skin and tells which insect this skin belongs to. Violet, who gets scared, comes to the palace top for suicide, but the king explains that I can't break my promise. Now this is your fate, you should accept this. Violet tries to explain her father that which kind of father are you? You are giving your daughter to an ugly person. I'm queen. But king gives her daughter to that ugly person. He takes Violet to very far in mountains and Violet cries for many days. And when he goes out for hunting, she sees another lady on nearby mountain. She seeks help from him. She tells her that she herself is a queen and one monster has kept her over here. But they were far away from each other and she couldn't help her. Then she calls her son and they help her with a rope, but suddenly that person appears over there and goes toward them with the help of rope. They succeed in cutting the rope, but he attacks them and kill everyone except Violet. He sees Violet anxiously and she hugs him and his anger goes away. When that devil makes her to sit on his shoulder, Violet cuts her neck cleverly. He devil dies there. Then she takes her head back to the kingdom, where his father was ill due to that insect. Violet puts his head full of blood in front of her. King was very much sad about her decision. He had to die soon. Violet becomes brave girl and becomes the queen after his father. The story ends here and movie is finished. Thanks for watching this episode of Horror Thriller. We have handpicked this videos for you to watch next. Enjoy.